Hi friends, welcome to Bronx Tales with your sleepy hosts, Bronxy B and me. I'm Logan. We appreciate you for being here. We have a few things to discuss in this episode that pretty much prove certain things and prove more inconsistencies in other things. Let's just get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the connections in this case that seem to be really strange. I know you guys remember Scott Green, the president of U of I, and how he and U of I were purchasing University of Phoenix, the online college. Now, Scott Green hired Holland and Hart Law Office to represent him during this deal. I just find it a little strange that I think you guys also remember Joshua Hurwitz, correct? He's the one who stepped onto the Brian Kohberger case, and immediately there was a plea deal. Well, guess who works for Holland and Hart? Joshua Hurwitz. What a strange connection. It seems like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, because that's a pretty high dollar deal that U of I is purchasing University of Phoenix. That's a pretty penny. It's just kind of interesting to me that Joshua Hurwitz now works for the same law office that Scott Green, the president of U of I, is using to purchase University of Phoenix. I don't know. Call me crazy. I want to hop on in to talk about Molly McMichael, the DoorDasher, and some more information regarding her interview and a couple of other things regarding timeline. I want to start with Mark B. His channel will be linked below, talking about the timeline and how it just doesn't work with Molly McMichael.
The 358 car passing her up. So what we have here, this is right before the lights come on, 1127. So we're going to take a look at this in just a second. At 357:26 through 32, that's when we're going to see the lights right here. So I'm going to hold this back so that you can see both. And keep in mind, you want to be looking right here, but I'll keep the timestamp in. Here we go. Starts at 26 to 32. There they are. And they end at 32. Okay, here's a picture I took before the house 1122 was demolished. And here's the apartments, and I drew a line here just to get an idea of the position of the house. So that's what we're going to be basing on when we go to this other map. So Molly was standing right here looking towards the sliding glass door area. And the car came around here, and that's when you see the lights on 1127 and turns and keeps going. And that's when Molly saw the car right here. So now let's go to the map. It's going to have another line right here to show this part of the house. Okay, so here's that one line we saw. So Molly's standing right about here. And the car came through here at 357:32, 26 to 32, but probably right about 1 second after 32 or 2 seconds after is when Molly saw the car and the person, and she was standing there and it drove by her. Probably took about 2 seconds. And then Molly walked down another 40 feet. Here's the end of the house is actually on this side of this line. She looked for a walkway down, and then she walked all the way back up to about here. I just readjusted. So Molly was right about here, and then she walked back up to her car about 110 feet, right to about here, and then backed up, and then went down right here where her car's light reflection was on 1119. So let's take a look at the time frame. Okay, so 357:26 to 32, that's when we saw the lights on 1127. 2 seconds later, the car gets to Molly. 2 seconds, she's standing still while a car passes. Then she walks to the end of the house, down the alley, about 40 feet, and that takes around 9 seconds. I clocked it on my calculator. From that point at the house to her car, going uphill, it's about 110 feet, and I figured she was doing 3.5 miles an hour, a fast walk, and that would have taken 21 seconds just to get up to the car, and 5 seconds to get in the car, close the door, get dog in her lap, shift to reverse. I don't remember if her car's running or not. That would take another second, but we'll go with 5 seconds. And then 4 seconds to back up cautiously, she says. She went down the alley very fast, so 8 seconds down alley to corner of Queen, which is where you see the very first light reflection on floor 3 of 1119. Then she pulls in front. But it's right to this point here that we're mainly concerned. So I totaled all these times, and it came to 51 seconds. So if you take 357:32, that's the last light that we see, plus 51, that equals 358:23. So let's take a look to see what's happening at 358:23. Okay, here's 358:19. So let's see what happens at the 23-second mark. Okay, that's the 358 car leaving. That's not Molly. She leaves at 4 o'clock and 41 seconds. Let's take a look at floor 3, these 2 windows, and these windows here to see if there's going to be any light reflection. We need probably to give that car 2 seconds to leave, but just keep an eye on those windows. I'll keep the timestamp in there. And I've already watched it all the way until I see Molly actually leaving, and there's 0 light reflections on floor 2 or 3 between now and 4 o'clock, and she actually starts leaving at 32 seconds, And then you see her on camera at 41 seconds, 4 o'clock and 41 seconds. I just got a commercial there, so I had to cut that out. So we're going to keep going. Just keep an eye on the floor 2 and floor 3. 3 and 2, 2 and 3, right there. And I probably should have sped this thing up, but we'll go. Because this is a real important piece to see that she did not come down after this car left. She actually came down before. I'll be showing that in a minute. That'll disappear in just a second. So we got a little bit more to go. And there's no way for somebody to come down that hill and not see a reflection on floor 3 right here. Okay, so we got at 32 seconds is when we're going to start seeing Molly leave the area. And then we'll go back and I'll show you where she actually did leave. I'll show the reflections here. So now she's leaving, the lights are coming on, and at 41 we'll see her car. Okay, so that was to show that this whole process right here used up too much time, because she actually leaves at 3:57 and 59 seconds before the 3:58 car leaves, not after. And I'll show you that in a second. This 3:58:23 is not possible. That's when that car leaves. So now I'll show you when Molly leaves. Okay, right here, 3:57 at 59 is when you will see the 3rd floor windows light up. Just keep your eyes on these 2 windows right here. In 5 seconds, here we go. They're gonna light up. Okay, that's Molly coming in. Watch it light up right here. Okay, she's already pulled in. I'm going to do that once more. That way there we can focus. Okay, it's rolling. Watch this light up here in a couple seconds. There it is. Now she's pulling in. Okay, so now she pulled in and parked. So that's when Molly pulls in. I'll keep it rolling, and you'll see the 3:58 car. Here we go. It'll be just a couple more seconds before we see it. There it is. That's 3:58 car leaving. So it leaves about 11 seconds after Molly pulls in, not before. Okay, now, at one point, Molly said, after she saw the car, that she did not know where it went. I think I know the reason for that. Because it actually came and parked along here. And it had to. And Molly was already in her car. That car comes around. Molly would not have time to do what she did. So I believe she was already in her car. There was no way for her to see this car at this point, other than from a distance of her car being right here. That car came down and parked someplace right in here. So let's take a look at those numbers. Okay, so here's the 3:58 car. And remember, we saw the lights on 1127, 3:57:26 to 32. And then we saw it leaving at 3:58:12. It was just beginning to leave, right at the first sights of it. 32 to 12, that's 40 seconds. So 3:57:32, after the lights last seen, we'll add 7 seconds to get down the alley right before you take a left, a few feet before that point, and park. So the 3:58 car parked on the alley. So now it's 3:57:39. So there's 3:57:39 minus Molly leaving at 3:57:59. So that equals 20 seconds. That 20 seconds or 19 seconds in alley was available time for Molly to communicate with 3:58 car. She could have just pulled up right alongside that car while it was parked in the alley before she left, communicated, then she comes around, parks in front of 1122, and that car then takes off about 13 seconds later.
Now, also regarding Molly McMichael, she said a couple of things in the interview that I found a little bit strange. One being, she said she set the food down and closed the door because she didn't want the door to hit the food, as if there was a glass door in the front and then the regular heavy door behind the glass door in the front of 1122. We all know there's only one door in the front of 1122 King Road. She might be confused with another delivery, but she said something about not wanting the glass front door to hit the food as it closed, meaning the door was open. I feel like she might just have it confused, but nonetheless, it was just an interesting thing to point out.
I wasn't up there. And I turned to the side, and all of a sudden I can see the numbers. There they are. There's the numbers through the light. Now I can see them there on the side. And I throw the car and park very quickly. And I think I had Nike in my hand when I grabbed the food because I didn't want to let go of him. And I got out of the car, and I grabbed my phone. I didn't turn it off. I didn't even shut the car door. And ran up to the door and put the food down, making sure that the door wouldn't hit the food if it was to open outwards. And taking the picture, trying to get the program to work.
The other interesting thing Molly McMichael said was pretty much confirming 100% that the car she saw was the undercover Ford Fusion that Officer Tesdall and Rosie were driving. I know we've already pointed a few things out that pretty much prove that's who she saw, but this, to me, ices the cake.
It's a tan light colored car driving by me. It's not going fast. It's not going particularly slow. The dash light is on. It's very easy to see inside. But he's very into what he's doing. He doesn't look at me, and he seems very just not paying attention to anything else going on. But the light's on in the car for some reason, and it's very light inside the car. I don't see anything, bags or anything in the seats. I remember seeing the seats, and nothing like a bag or anything hanging around. He had a light colored dress shirt on, short hair, almost pokey. I don't want to say spiky, pokey hair, and a beard that was not a long beard, very short, but just nothing like he hasn't shaved in a couple days, but it's been a while. His hair could have been like a blondish red, okay, you know? Okay. It was hard with the glow of the light.
And it seems like you described being able to see pretty clearly on the inside of the car. Is that?
Yeah, I remember the inside of the car being lit up.
Okay.
Like he had the dome light on, which seems odd to me, but I don't know. But he wasn't looking around or anything. He was just straight.
Okay. Did it seem like there were any tints in the windows?
No.
Or just clear?
I could see right through.
Okay.
I could see him so well.
Okay.
That's why it's been just bugging me, because I could see him so well.
Okay. You talked about light-colored interior of the car.
Yes.
Can you see about the color besides that it's light?
Okay, just light. I don't remember any bags or clutter or...
Molly McMichael said the interior of the vehicle that she saw with the blondish, strawberry blonde, light-colored hair, bearded guy driving the vehicle, and it was tan. It was a tan vehicle. The interior, she said, was light colored, and she specifically remembers that. Well, let me just show you. The interior of Brian Koberger's car is dark. It's black. But let me also show you the interior of the undercover Ford Fusion that Tesdal and Rosie were driving that night. It is light colored. To me, that puts the icing on the cake that this 100% is the vehicle and the driver that Molly McMichael saw. She also said he was strawberry blonde or light-colored, spiky hair with a beard. I mean, let's look at this, because to me, she's describing Tesdal on the right rather than Brian Koberger on the left. Now I want to move into some body-worn camera that Truth and Transparency was looking at today. Truth and Transparency's channel will be linked in the description box below as well. I think it's interesting that several officers on these body-worn cameras were called by the defense to testify rather than the prosecution, which tells us that they have information that's going to help the defense, and the prosecution doesn't want it brought into court. Here we have an officer canvassing, knocking on doors, asking questions to the neighbors next to 1122. But as he goes to walk away, he notices red fluid on the concrete outside of an apartment.
Right here, he's looking at blood. Okay.
But I noticed this spot, which is that's moving. Yeah.
I'm not sure why the prosecution didn't want to talk about that, because why? It didn't point to Brian Koberger? Well, the defense was sure going to call this officer to testify. Prosecution didn't, not on their list. In another body-worn camera, we hear an officer talking to a neighbor, and the neighbor stating the other two neighbors, as soon as the officers pulled up, left with their firearms.
I don't think they're home. We saw them leave a little bit ago.
Okay.
Actually, we were just thinking about this. We were going to bring it up to you. About at the time, we saw them get into their cars with firearms. We just...
Oh, these guys did?
Yeah.
So, two or more neighbors, we just know it's more than one, when the officers arrived on scene to canvass, they took their firearms, got in a car, and drove away. I mean, sounds kind of guilty to me. Of course they didn't look into that. And here we have an officer interviewing a female neighbor. This is the female neighbor that was reported to come to her house at about 4:30 in the morning to check on her cats. The report said that she left work, came to her house to check on her cats, and then left. Well, unfortunately, she doesn't say that. I guess she doesn't remember that, but no, she doesn't say that she did that. Now, the reason officers made a report of that was because the SUV pulling out at 423 is what the officers said was this girl's vehicle. The thing is, we don't have it pulling in at all. So it seems like officers had to make up that narrative to account for that SUV leaving the neighborhood at 423, when in fact, it wasn't her vehicle. She didn't go let out her cats or play with her cats or leave work to do anything with her cats at 4:30 in the morning when she was going to get off work 2 hours later.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm Jason with Moscow Police. I'm sure you've noticed all the hustle and bustle down the way here.
Yeah, a little bit. What's up?
Sure. Just trying to kind of talk to some of the folks around the area, see if we can establish anything that seemed out of the ordinary. Were you here all night?
No, I actually work overnight. So
Oh, you do? Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
we
Do you recall
go.
what time you got home?
I got home at 6:30.
6:30. Drove home, walked home.
I drove home.
Gotcha. Did you notice anything strange, odd, out of the ordinary?
Not really when I got home.
No. Did you tell if they were still partying down around the corner?
No, but they were when I left that morning. So
They were.
or when I left that night, I should say.
What?
At like 9:45. I leave
No
right
one-
before 10 because that's when I work.
Just another lie. But they had to account for that vehicle leaving at 423. So they made up this story of this girl going home to check on her cats. We also now know that latent print L3 is a print that was lifted off of the floor in Xana's room. We also now know that print L4 is a latent print that was taken from the threshold of Dylan's door. So I'm assuming that this is the red fluid latent print from a Vans shoe that was in the threshold of Dylan's door. The thing is they didn't notice this by the naked eye. They had to use a chemical to find this print. So it was definitely evidence of direct cleanup. There's another latent print labeled L5 that is a latent print that was found on the inside of the handle of the back sliding glass door. And there's one labeled L6 that is another latent print lifted off of the top part of the handle of the back sliding glass door. Why didn't we know about this? Why weren't those tested or compared to anybody? Last but not least, but definitely huge information here, is that we have on the stairwell going to the third floor, red fluid mixture of Kaylee, Maddie, and an unknown male DNA. We also now know that we have a red fluid mixture from the first floor stairwell going up to the second floor of Ethan and a different unknown male DNA. That proves that at the very, very least, there were two different male perpetrators, one on the third floor, one on the first floor. Why did they try and tell us this entire time that it was Brian Koberger and he never went to the first floor when there is direct evidence of an unknown male DNA being mixed with Ethan's DNA leading from the first floor to the second floor, and a separate male DNA, unknown, mixed with Maddie and Kaylee from the third floor to the second floor? To me, that proves at least two perpetrators on two different floors, also with different weapons. The way the information is coming out now and how we're able to dig into it now, I'm really hoping we can get to the bottom of this and get to the truth. This is the most absurd case I have ever heard of. They blatantly ignored all of this evidence, and the real perpetrators are still out there. This is wild. That's what we have for you today. Do something nice for yourself. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your animals. Bye, guys.